Who doesn't like a nice round number? Then again, what does that even mean? Let's take a few minutes to talk about what rounding means and how we use it with whole numbers and decimals. Rounding is the process of altering a number ever so slightly so that it's easier to use. It won't be as exact, but it's more convenient than writing out a long, complicated number when something close enough will do. Rounding isn't something we do when we're trying to land safely on the moon, but when you're sitting in a classroom trying to find the right decimal to represent a fraction, your teacher might tell you that 2 places after the decimal is enough. Say you have the fraction 20 over 29. This is the same thing as 20 divided by 29. Technically, it comes out to 0.689655, etc., etc. Your teacher may ask you to round to the hundredths place or 2 places after the decimal to save time and space. Another example is when you hear about the crowd at a sporting event and someone says there were over 4,000 people in the stands. In reality, there were 4,327 people in the stands, but that's a mouthful. It's easier to round down to 4,000. Rounding works pretty much the same way whether you're working with a whole number or a decimal, but we'll talk about them both to make sure you're comfortable. First, let's talk about whole numbers. We'll cover decimals in part 2. If you're being asked to round a number, you're almost always told which place to round to. The first step in rounding is to underline the digit in that place. Once you've done that, look at the digit to the right of your underlined place. Is it 5 or greater? If so, increase the underlined digit by 1 and change everything to its right to 0. If it isn't 5 or greater, leave the underlined digit as it is and change everything to its right to 0. Let's look at an example. 84,726. Say we've been asked to round to the nearest hundred. 7 is in the hundreds place, so we'll underline it. What's the digit to its right? It's a 2. 2 isn't 5 or greater, so we'll leave our 7 as it is and change everything to its right to 0. Now we have a rounded number of 84,700. Let's undo that and pretend we were asked to round to the nearest thousand instead. We'll underline the 4 since that's in the thousands place. What's the digit to its right? It's a 7. Now, since the number to the right of our target digit is 5 or greater, we get to increase our digit by 1 and change everything to the right to 0. Our rounded value is now 85,000. That's all the practice I have for you today, but if you need more examples, check out the Rounding Whole Numbers video. Don't forget to come back for part 2, where we'll take a look at rounding decimals and what to do when you're asked to round to the nearest whole number.